Hello, everybody. This is Donald Kent from AmericanZarathustra.com. I'm extremely pleased to be invited to the XYZ Festival in Australia. I can't say enough. I am so happy to be here with you guys. I thank you to James Fox Higgins and to Mike. And I want to send my love to everybody there. I'm really, really happy to be in front of this audience. Also want to say that I'm sending all my prayers and well wishes to everybody in Australia. I'm following what's happening there, and I want to give you all my strength and all my love so that you can get through this extraordinary and difficult time. So a lot of what I'm about to show you today is very, very moralizing and positive and empowering. So we're going to just jump right in. I'm going to have to do my little screen share here. We're going to discuss the importance of the arts in the culture war. It's people in the right wing generally think of the arts as the domain of the left, and they have intentionally sort of destroyed and bastardized the arts in such a way that is intentionally part of their whole anti-white objective. And it's ubiquitous. It's all over in our media and in various levels of society. So the title here, Imperium Art, the Arts of the White Identity, of White Identity Politics. So let's talk about this. Imperium Art is the name of a show that I run on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and look up American Zarathustra, that is one of my longest running shows, where I think I'm episode 52 right now. We talk to artists and influencers in the white political sphere to co-author and make a documentary of the movement, of the art movement. So we'll get into that a bit later. Let's talk about the overview of this presentation a bit. How art functions in the culture war. So this is a big question that a lot of people have, people that are not engaged in the arts community. By the end of this presentation, I really hope that everybody watching will engage more and follow all the many events that are going on in our arts community. We have a very rich and lively arts community. I'm part of the White Art Collective, and also in the UK, Mark Collette has the Patriotic Alternative Arts project going on. We can look into that as well. Me being part of the White Art Collective, I'm going to focus largely on that at some point in this presentation. So let's just get a bit acquainted with the context and the crises that we're coping with. This is a very savvy audience that I'm talking to. You're well educated and well versed in what's going on in white identity politics across the Western world. So, but let's look at these topics in terms of how they relate to the culture war and the arts. So linguistics, twisted dialectic. We all know Rules for Radicals, Saul Alinsky, the idea of taking words and twisting them around, giving them false titles. It's all part of propaganda of the left and how to warp people's perception of reality so that they can be weaponized, turned into useful idiots, etc. So dialectic is language, correct? So the arts is a language as well. We have music, poetry, we even have a visual language, our own iconography. So this is something that we have to take control of and be more mindful of, is creating our own dialectic. If someone says, you're anti-Semitic, I say, no, I'm counter-Semitic. If someone says, you're racist, I say, no, I'm a race realist. And those are just little things you can use. But in the arts, we want to integrate them into our song, our poetry, and our general language. Racial esoteric moralization. This is something created by Mark Brahman. I urge you to go to the ApollonianTransmission.com, the ApollonianTransmission.com, and learn about his theories on symbol languages in the arts. He decodes Jewish symbols and how they play a role in films, TV, in pop culture, etc., and how they are all designed to be a kind of a language that only Jews know, and that demoralizes the Aryan. So, yet at the same time, we can do the same. We can create our own esoteric moralization. We can create our own dialectic, as it were. So these concepts come together. The manufacturing of compliance, white on white weaponization. So again, useful idiots. These are people who are kind of the NPCs, the brainwashed whites, who are taught through leftist psychological warfare how to essentially police the rest of us. And that is a critical problem. So in many ways, the arts in the white identity sphere is about whites communicating to other whites about being white. So, and, I'm not going to kind of get bogged down in the minutia of, people of European descent or versus white versus ethnicity. We're living in a time where all Caucasians, all people of European descent are targeted for destruction and replacement. So we're using this term white. So moving on, psychological warfare, 24/7 media demoralization. This is something we're all very aware of. So how do we do that? We create our own media. So you're going to see today that there's all kinds of fabulous media coming out, specifically through the White Art Collective, and I do a lot as well. And so what is important, though, is that you, the audience, goes to the weekly shows and attends the concerts and buys the magazines or engages in our arts community. And not only that you share it into your networks, that you take some responsibility in getting other whites into this white arts culture. It's a really, really important part of taking back our narrative and our destiny. It's all about becoming who you are, knowing who you are, controlling your own narrative. We'll get to that. Falsified or erased histories, canned talking points. Again, this is a very savvy audience. You know our history. You know how our history's been lied about, who has lied about our history, how they've done it, how it's illegal to talk about certain topics, which is absurd, these kinds of things. So when you cut off a people from their history and you don't allow them to find out their true history or even talk about it, that's one way that you sever them from their true identity, from their past, and therefore their future. So, a lot of liberal whites, leftists, etc., and people of color, they use canned talking points that come from these notions of history that are false. So we have to use the arts to walk around that. The arts are a kind of oblique approach, not a direct approach. It doesn't engage directly in the kind of the debate platforms. The social media is, there's all kinds of fighting and debating and censorship going on. Whereas if you listen to a really great song by someone in the White Art Collective, for example, your heart can lift up and be opened, and your mind can see new things in such a way as you haven't seen before. So you can kind of bypass these canned talking points. Controlling the white narrative, obvious, right? Through the arts, we create our narrative, we reclaim our narrative. This is critical, but again, it depends on the audience. If we artists, painters, poets, musicians are just working in our studios and posting a little bit here and there online, it's meaningless. It's up to the audience, which is you, to be engaged in this. We're kind of the two legs of a great statue. We have to come together and support each other in our cause. Institutionalized anti-white racism. We're all aware of these things. In the United States, the Hart-Celler Immigration Act of 1965. This is an anti-white policy by flooding the country with non-whites. So, there's many other things. Critical race theory is probably the hot topic right now. Is institutionalized anti-white racism. Crypto leftists. Kindness is killing us. So You have a kind of a middle of the road type of person who just bends over backwards not to see race and not to talk about race, and who goes out of their way to try to, appeal to us to be kind and let's all hold hands and sing Kumbaya, my Lord, and ride on the rainbows and etc. But in fact, these people are actually crypto leftists, because at this time in this crisis, we have to make our people first. We have to make our destiny first. We have to love ourselves first. That's hard to do when we're being told 24/7 that we're evil. And so we have to first take care of our own mental, spiritual health, our cultural health, and then move on from there. So there's something to be aware of. Well, what the arts do that. They produce media that shows a bold love and pride in our Western history, our Western civilization, etc. Unite the right and the left, no man left behind. This is a kind of an ideal. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if everyone agrees with this, but there is the notion that, the real problem within the white among whites, let's say, is that we're split. You have those who don't recognize themselves as a legitimate demographic, that don't recognize themselves as connected to the greatness of Western civilization, and who are kind of, beating us on the right, who are trying to save and salvage our destiny, our people, our lands, etc. So the arts is, again, an oblique, non-linear way to approach the people on the left, whites on the left, to get their hearts to open up a little bit more and to feel, wow, it's okay to be white. Okay, so tribalism, dancing around the communal fire. Well, the communal fire would be our YouTube shows, D-Live shows, contests, publishing adventures, poetry shows. There's so many events going on that you're missing, and we love you. We want you to be a part of our family. There's so many kinds of arts. It's a buffet. It's not like a movement where everybody's playing one kind of music or painting one style of art or something. There's so much to choose from. So come dance with us around the communal fire. Be a part of the arts community. Imperium art, envisioning our future. So like I said, we'll get to that. I'm going to move on a little bit here. Just got to take a quick sip of my tea. Yes, Americans drink tea too. So the art of war in the war of art. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, or any time other than this, on leftist art, anti-white art, but I feel that this comparison is a perfect picture of what we're dealing with here. So here on the right, you have Jacques-Louis David's portrait of Napoleon. It's a bold, powerful painting with, this great military leader, Napoleon pointing forward, leading us forward. The wind is at his back. There's great drama. But beyond that, think of the hundreds of years it took to develop all the skills and techniques to even produce a work of art of this kind. See, that is unique to Western man. Okay, the everything to do with that, perspective drawing, anatomy, light, composition, etc., all the tools involved in that. And then using this, like, essentially a kind of a visual science to create a work of history, and something that even inspires us today and points forward to our great destiny in the future. And then look at the left. Here we have the artist who did the famous portrait of Obama, former President Obama, who is a blatantly, openly anti-white artist. I don't like to even call him an artist. But look at how he stole what we have. So, and then he weaponized it against us. So if you go to Africa and see the arts that have evolved out of there over how many, thousands of years, it's nothing like what we see in the West. And so, the idea of claiming these techniques and this history, our arts and our culture, and then turning it against us is a deeply evil thing to do. I lived in Asia for 5 years. I studied art in Japan and Taiwan. Imagine if I mastered Japanese painting so that I could make paintings that insulted, demoralized, and deconstructed Japanese people and culture and history. How is that acceptable? How is that? It's pure evil. So this is the war that we're in. Okay. Now this is an original piece of art of my own. This here is my first attempt at making deliberately Imperium art. It's filled with symbolism that relates to our culture, our history. You have the kind of the Western biospirit, this kind of demigod Western man in the middle here with he's fettered by the vines of the symbols woven inside the plant. If you look closely, you have babies being sacrificed to Moloch. You have a sigil, a magic sigil over here. There's symbols within the sword, a burning church, double-headed snake in the mouth of an eagle. What could these things symbolize? What is the representation of the lion and the use of gold, et cetera, et cetera? So it's an attempt to take all these aspects of Western culture, history, and identity and do a contemplation on our current situation. Why is this Western God-man pointing to you, the audience? What does it mean? So this is a topic for Imperium art. My website, AmericanZarathustra.com, you can come and check that out. I'm not going to spend time on this show specifically on that because there's a lot of other things to look at. But I want to give this PowerPoint to XYZ, and then you can have it for free. There's many links embedded inside the PowerPoint. You can do your own presentations with this PowerPoint, etc. So I'll just move on from there. What is Imperium art? Imperium art is a show on American Zarathustra's YouTube. As a professional artist and art teacher within the white positive sphere, I took it upon myself to create an ongoing documentary of the creators and influencers in our culture, primarily focusing on the white art collective. The concept of Imperium art is to offer a trajectory for the multitude of creators, genres, mediums, and styles. Based on the book Imperium by Francis Parker Yockey, whom you see I painted over here on the left, I chose this name to frame our arts as the foundation for a global white imperium. This is not to be confused with imperialism. Rather, it's a consciousness of living in the Western biospirit. The documentary series asks each guest to read the essay called Imperium Art, which is written by my co-host and friend, Nullis. Nullis runs a site called abnormocracy.com. Nullis is a very well-known poet in the White Art Collective, and he has his own poetry show on White Art Collective that will be starting again in October, I believe. So I'm very pleased to have him as my co-host. I co-host his poetry show, and there's a lot to see. So again, if you download this PowerPoint, you'll have the link to that, but you can go to abnormocracy.com and look up the Imperium Art essay. So here are just some images of the shows and the people that have had on the show. Mark Collette had me on his program with Jeff Winston, who is the head of the White Art Collective. Jeff Winston is, I cannot say enough about him bringing together and making the White Art Collective happen. All the work he puts in, it's extraordinary. That inspired Mark Collette to create the patriotic alternative arts scene, which is just going beautifully. There's a lot happening there, so please check that out as well. Of course, Frody Midjord has been a tremendous, like a hero, I would say, in our sphere. The conventions that he's had, all his shows, everything that he has. I was fortunate to be on his show as well, so I return the favor here. Guide to Culture. Here's a man who truly understands the significance of culture as relates to white well-being and our political destiny. Tim Murdoch, of White Rabbit Radio was on my show. Tim Murdoch made one of my favorite cartoons called Anti-Racist Hitler. If you haven't seen it, you are not living life. It is just hilarious and a brilliant example of Imperium art. It's something that is about white identity, and it brilliantly and humorously exposes the hypocrisy of the kind of Jewish hegemony in our world, the Zionist takeover of Western cultures. When you look up anti-racist Hitler, you'll know what I'm talking about. I had Richard Spencer and Tyler Hamilton on my show to talk about fashion. It was really great to get Spencer out of his political sphere and allow him to talk about arts, and he's interested in fashion. There's so many other people that I've had on the show as well. There's, like I said, about 52 episodes right now. We also had on Norm Apollo, who is an expert on fascism. So this is something that he's also involved in writing and narrating science fiction and novels and the things that he's doing. You can look into his content. But I think a person like him is extremely critical in our sphere in terms of taking back our historic narrative and reteaching to us the truth about different ideologies in World War II and how we may take the good from that and maybe rework it or rebuild it in a way that is healthy and positive for our people. So highly recommend Norm Apollo on YouTube. One of my favorite Australians, Joel Davis, was on the show. We've been on each other's shows. Just a fabulous, amazing human being, a brilliant young man with a very great future ahead of him with fantastic content. Imperium Press, please check out their website as well, a new publisher on the scene. And everybody knows this handsome devil right here, James Fox Higgins. What a joy to have him on the show and to feature his album Logos Rising, to get a deep dive into his personal experience and views in what he does and how it relates to our sphere. You know, we're surrounded by these great musicians, artists, talent. It's tremendous. So it's so great to be in the company of people like him. Dave Martell, representing Folkish Ways, the Asatru movement, learning about indigenous Germanic spiritual traditions. Also, Dave and I are kind of working on a project taking back pulp fiction. I'll get to that a little bit later. There's just some wonderful publishing things that we're doing coming up in the near future. So what I'd like to do is play you a song of mine, take a little break from the talking, and let's listen to some music here. This is a collaboration with me on vocals doing, let's get the other screen on here, doing some music with a guy who goes by the name of George Freud. Quite funny. Anyway, there's that. Let me, trying to get my screen share to go on. All right, just a moment here. So this particular song is more kind of a retro pop, not retro. You'll know the synthwave. That's what I'm looking for. So anyway, it's a kind of a synthwave pop tune. My music that I write is more of a kind of classic rock, punk rock kind of flavor, but I really like what I've done with George here. So let's, you know what, I've got to go back and make sure that audio is on. That technology is sort of the bane of our existence, isn't it? So anyway, let's try again. Screen share, share audio. Now I won't be sitting here in the silence, and I'll let you listen to this awesome song. Someday is Today. business. In fact, you owe me an apology for this business. I don't care about the names that you call me. I'm not your enemy. No apologies for what you envy. Someday everything is gonna be okay. When the Imperium comes, someday everything is gonna be okay. When the Imperium comes. Pursuing our destiny separately, as it was meant to be. Someday everything is gonna be okay. When the Imperium comes, someday everything is gonna be okay. When the Imperium comes. Someday is today. George Floyd and Donald Kent. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm going to play another song of mine as well. I'm also going to play some music from one of my favorite artists in the White Art Collective a little bit later, but I just want to give you a little bit of a feature of my own work. How did you feel while you were listening to that? How do you think other people would like that song? Do you think it could open up their heart? Could that be the jump off point to talk about things, about white identity and these kinds of issues? So this is part of what the arts do, is they, in a sense, open up new avenues or new ways to discuss the things that we're dealing with as a people on a global scale. So this next song is much more bold. It's meant to be an anthem for our people in the street. So when you in Australia are fighting for your freedom, please think of this song. Keep this song in your hearts and your minds. It's really for you. It's for all Western kind that have their back up against the wall and need to have an extra shot of courage and fire in their heart to reclaim their freedom. So this song is called Thought Police. And through the video, by the way, I don't have a Patreon. You can ignore that. But through the video, you see me basically in the studio drawing comics. I'm a comic book illustrator. That's one of many things I do. But it kind of double dipping here, letting you listen to my music as well as look at me doing art in my studio. So we didn't. I got to start that over. I didn't do the share audio thing. So give me 1 second here. There were in the United States in like 2017, 2018, there were a lot of riots, and this is something that was really moving me tremendously. It's in the news every day, and so I thought, our guys in the street, they need an anthem, so I'm going to write one. And This is called Thought Police. Did you take the red pill? Still on the blue pill? These days, so many ways to wake up. There's the SJW, deeply trouble you, and all your friends just want to break up. The police in the streets censoring our freedom of speech. We say no. We say no. Did you take the white pill? Did you take the black pill? These days, so many ways to lose hope. They want to erase us, but they won't replace us. These days, the ride is slippery slope. Shitloads unite. Don't give up the fight. The West is the best. Shitloads unite. Don't give up the fight. The West is the best. It's okay to be right. You don't have to thank me for posting those thank memes. Winning info wars needs to get done. They'll try to dox you, try to outbox you, find a way to take our guns. But police in the streets censoring our freedom of speech. We say no. We say no. We're the last generation to stop this mummification. The Western world is counting on us. So wake up the normies and prepare for glory. Let's burn Marxism into dust. Shitloads unite. Don't give up the fight. The West is the best. Shitloads unite. Don't give up the fight. The West is the best. It's okay to be white. The police in the streets censoring our freedom of speech. We say no, 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 no. Who's the man with the plan with the picker stand back in his hand? Now let's go. Whoa, that'll kick you right in the teeth. So yeah, that's what it is. It is what it is, my man. So I gotta have some love for my people here. I've got the lyrics in here. Did you take the red pill? Still on the blue pill? These days, so many ways to wake up. Does the SJW deeply trouble you? And all your friends just want to break up. Thought police in the streets censoring our freedom of speech. We say no. Did you take the white pill? Did you take the black pill? These days, so many ways to lose hope. They want to erase us, but they won't replace us. These days, we ride a slippery slope. Shitlords unite. Don't give up the fight. The West is the best. Shitlords unite. Don't give up the fight. The West is the best. It's okay to be white. You don't have to thank me for posting those dank memes. Winning InfoWars needs to get done. They'll try to dox you, try to outfox you, find a way to take our guns. Thought police in the streets, censoring our freedom of speech. We say no. We're the last generation to stop Islamification. The Western world is counting on us. So wake up the normies and prepare for glory. Let's grind Marxism into dust. And there it goes on and on. So you've got your lyrics there below the song. There's quite a lot more on this page here, but you know, with my work in the White Art Collective, I focus a lot on the arts. So I need to do more music. Everybody's really angry at me in the White Art Collective. When's the next song coming out? So it's, you know, I need to clone myself, and then I'll be able to do that. But so let's get back to the presentation here. Pop that up on the screen. and we'll continue exploring the arts in our sphere. So one of the shows I have on American Zarathustra on YouTube is called Afternoon at the Museum. Now, me being an art teacher, a professional artist, I first of all, I start off the show by teaching people how to critique art. I teach them the language, the visual language of arts, you know, line, color, shape, form, composition, pattern, rhythm, balance, unity, emphasis, all these aspects. And then we go and visit museums on the internet and look at artwork. And so this way, people don't feel like, oh, the arts is just for the left, or it's artsy fartsy, or something. And, it brings us back into our cultural home. These are our historic museums. So here is an image. I brought Jason Kuna and Jared George, No White Guilt, etc., onto the show. We had a brilliant show. We looked at Jared George's website. He's got some fabulous artwork on there. Another show that I have is Live Studio Stream. I do commissions, art commissions. You can kind of see in the background, there's a painting in watercolor of a scene of Romans sacking the temple in Jerusalem. The painting is about 4 foot long. I was commissioned that by one of my followers. And so if people want to commission me for artwork, I will do it live on my show. So, and then I take questions throughout the show, play some classical music in the background. It's something cozy. It's like a cozy detox show. There's just so much negative content out there. There's so many talk shows, whereas this is kind of like looking over my shoulder and hanging out, and we're free to talk as well. So, there's just been a lot of different kinds of shows where, let's say, I'll get together with some other friends in the sphere, Josh Neal, Jerome Schmidt. Jerome Schmidt, by the way, is a fantastic filmmaker. I had him on Imperium Art. So not everything fits into the Imperium Art kind of bubble. I like to open up and talk about all kinds of topics. So here is the new project by Dave Martell. He's going to be publishing books under the title The Bizarchives, Weird Tales of Monsters, Magic, and Machines. So it's kind of taking back the old fiction stories from the 1930s and bringing it up to date today. So I'm going to be doing a lot of illustration. I did the artwork for the cover of this piece here. And let's move on. There's a French artist who goes by the name Flash Gorgon, who does digital art, meme art, GIFs. His work's extraordinary. I want to put a lot more attention on artists in Europe, and not just America, artists in Australia, everywhere. And we're Eastern Europe is underrepresented. We need to reach out more to people in Central and Eastern Europe. So, I sometimes will just do shows to feature these people. So check that out. I teach Kung Fu. I lived in Asia for 5 years. I've studied Kung Fu for many, many years, attended Shaolin Temple. And so I thought, hey, why don't we do a show on martial arts for white well-being? And so I had one of the great artists, or rather musicians, Imminent Rain from the White Art Collective. We had a really fun, cool conversation, very helpful. I urge everybody in our sphere to learn some martial arts. It's essential and also very healthy. So publishing is obviously a major deal here. I designed the cover for this book here, The National Labor Party, Gabriel Vinto. If you download this PowerPoint, that image links to his book on Amazon, or you can look it up. The National Labor Party, Gabriel Vinto. So anyway, I'll just give you a look at some of the things that I've been involved with publishing. So, pardon me, the White People's Press, white people, in this case, whitepeoplepress.com, they publish a quarterly magazine, White People's Quarterly. It's really essential that you get this. I feel that this magazine is, I guess it's kind of like the Time or Newsweek, or it's one of the most important magazines for our movement. Unfortunately, it only comes out quarterly, but when it comes out, it comes out with both guns blazing. The content is always top notch. It's an extremely high quality magazine. So you can go to whitepeoplepress.com and check out the other books that they're publishing. I'm going to be doing more work with them in the future. This particular issue, number 4, highlights the artists in our sphere. It has I'm interviewed in there. Other people in the White Art Collective are interviewed in there. So there's a great deal of content for you to explore. It's an exciting new realm for you to go into if you're unfamiliar with this. So once again, I did the artwork for the cover here. There's a few hidden symbols. There's a few little Easter eggs in here that, you know, if you look closely, you'll find them, but you have to look close. So once again, the Bizarchives here. This also links to the Amazon book, so you can purchase that. I did the cover for Josh Neal's book, I'm a Feminist, and 10 Other Things Women Never Want to Hear, The Politically Incorrect Guide to. So you can see this is more of a comical kind of, book. So not everything we do in the white art sphere is all just, rah, 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 white people. We obviously have a range of things. It's not one dimensional. There's comedy, there's horror, there's romance, there's everything that you would expect from anywhere else. So Love and Lust in Europe is a book cover I just illustrated. That'll be, I believe that'll be on Amazon shortly. I'm going to be doing artwork for a new comic book company called New Delphi Media. The hook with this is that all the characters are, they're memes. They're popular memes brought to life. Imagine the Clown World as a supervillain, or a Grug as a superhero, or et cetera, et cetera. So the alliance is the question of like who's good and who's bad, and can we come together on these different sides against, say, the 1%, for example. So this is going to be a very exciting project that's coming out shortly. Oops, I went a little too fast there. I did a comic book with Mark Brahman some time ago. That's in ebook form on Amazon as well. Again, if you download this PowerPoint, then you'll be able to click right into that. The serif here, that was exciting. A lot of fun working with Mark. That's how I learned about racial esoteric moralization. So there's a lot of symbolism inside this that is quite exciting to interpret. Dynamite Thor, it's a project I did with a comic book writer named John Delarose. John Delarose is really famous in the Comics Gate scene. So Comics Gate, like Watergate, is a political sphere within the comic book world. So if you're not into comics, you wouldn't know that, but there's a kind of culture war happening in comics, and it's massive. It's very intense. So to do a comic book where you're explicitly showing an Aryan defeating Muslim terrorists is something that is kind of a bold move forward. And that's exactly what this whole thing is about. That's pretty much what I'm representing here, is the idea of racial esoteric moralization, showing us as the heroes of our world. So that's also on Amazon. Look up Dynamite Thor by John Delarose, and I did the artwork for that. So there's a new show that I've got coming out I'm very excited about, Anti-Critical Race Theory. That's the theme of the show. We're going to, I've got two really important people on the show. Daniel Concannon, who was featured on Fox News recently. Brant Danger, who is the author of School of the West. I'll get right into this right now. So here we see Daniel on Tucker Carlson. He's on Fox News here, talking about how he quit his teaching job over critical race theory. And so he is a really fun guy to listen to. He's a beast. He's just very strong and bold and unedited, and he's not standing for any of this critical race theory, anti-white garbage. So in his letter of resignation, I'll read a little bit of that. he says, I hereby resign as site coordinator in light of the Frankfurt School, Manchester Schools District's endorsement of the dehumanization and hatred of white people, as evidenced by their dissemination of the imbecilic white privilege curriculum presented by the intellectual titans at Learning for Justice, an organization founded by America's eternal arbiters of truth and morality, the SPLC, which we all know is a Jewish extortion racket, where senior fellow Mark Potock's office is decorated with celebratory charts of the declining percentage of white people in the United States and Europe. Despite, you may be aware of that in the SPLC offices, they have charts of whites demographic, how do I say, replacement, that our census numbers are going down over the years, and they're celebrating that. Despite MSD's inability to abide to its own anti-harassment policy and the complete lack of respect and procedure MSD is owed in return, I will honor my obligation to provide a 2-week notice. Surely, though, in the interest of the greater good of humanity, MSD will unburden itself of my unbearable whiteness by exercising its discretion to excuse an employee from such notice and relieve an employee from his or her position immediately. So anyway, having Daniel on the show to talk about anti-critical race theory movement, his experience as a teacher, and then also to have Brant Danger. Brant Danger has a site called School of the West, which is white well-being content. And this is essentially for homeschooling. I'm going to pull it up in a second here. I have to grab it on the internet. So School of the West, if you're sick of anti-white programming in schools, you want to do homeschooling, you would go to this resource to look for curriculum. So he designs curriculum, for kids. I don't know if it's K to 12, but it's certainly something that people could use in all sorts of situations, in college classrooms, just on your own, and at any time. But having 3 teachers, I'm a teacher, Daniel's a teacher, Brant is a teacher, having the 3 of us together on a show creates a new niche in the white positive sphere. So this niche being, education. So we have the arts, we have politics, we have education. There's a lot going on in our sphere. And, a lot of us are parents as well. So we want to be able to raise our kids with material that is, helpful and useful. Again, I'm struggling to get my screen. Okay, here we go. Give me just a second. I'd like to take a quick second to review that. And then, just to give you a little tour, have a feeling of what School of the West is about. I won't go too far into it, but you can this is what it looks like here. You can donate membership plans, looking at the different topics here: white well-being, language arts, history, science. I should be involved in developing art curriculum for this, mathematics. Isn't it funny how they say math is racist, right? Anything from Western civilization is racist, essentially, to these people. So that would be something you definitely want to tune into when that's on. I think the chemistry with us is also really good. Like 3 guys that know how to banter and joke around and have fun. So that's going to be a good time. So let's dive right into some other stuff here. We need to look at the White Art Collective and what it is that they do. They have so many shows and contests and etc. So here we are at the White Art Collective's website. We've got news, projects, the memeing of a white Christmas, spooky short film contest for lovers, conversations with musicians. There's, of course, a store, about, contact, links. Okay, so they are on DLive, they're on BitChute, Twitter, Gab, Instagram. Friends of this channel, of course, American Zarathustra, Antelope Hill, the publisher, European Americans United, Kosher Certified. Kosher Certified is an app to find out what foods are kosher so that you don't buy them. You don't want to pay into your own destruction. Mighty White Soap, National Justice Party, No White Guilt, Red Ice, the After Party, Great Order, whitedate.net, White People Press. There's very many things going on here. So, we could just look at film, for example. There's a lot going on with film. There's a spooky shorts film contest coming up. I believe the prize is $2,000 or $3,000. It's not loading, so I'm going to try to move on to something else. The page is essentially a news aggregate, and you come to the page, and you can scroll through, and you can see, okay, like White Art Collective had our first music festival. This was a real music festival where we drove in from different parts of the country, and we're out, and you'll just have to see it yourself. It's a very, very major event that inspired others in many ways. We have different kinds of music on D Live every Monday, I believe Wednesday and Friday, Saturday, and then there's some of my shows are featured on here. We've got music by Fornull. We've got Mama P's. Mamas and the Pepes are central figures in the White Art Collective. That's kind of like a comedic satire folk music. So their music is really fun. Like I said, there's so many genres here. And Mama P does her own show on Mondays where it's basically a radio show that she plays the music of different people in the White Art Collective. So you've got comics, you've got dance, visual arts, poetry. So speaking of poetry, let's go back a bit to Nullis's show, Conversations with the Wind. So let me pop out of here. But whiteartcollective.com, whiteartcollective.com. That's the place to go. You want to get involved in what we're doing. Come to the shows, have fun, join our banter, get involved